All right, let's dive in. We're unlocking a vault today filled with 25 uncommon but incredibly useful English words.
And these aren't just any old words, no. We're giving you the good stuff.
Yeah, these words are going to add some serious depth to your conversations. And maybe even a touch of magic, who knows?
Exactly. It's like we're equipping you with a whole new set of tools for expressing yourself.
So first up is astonishing. Everyone uses amazing or surprising.
Yeah, but astonishing, that's something else.
It is. It hits different, right?
Absolutely. It's like you've seen something that changes everything, It shifts your perspective.
Like if you were describing the Northern Lights and you're like, the Northern Lights display was absolutely astonishing. It just takes it up a notch.
Right. It's not just a description, it's an experience.
It really is. Okay, so let's talk about a word that gives you a completely different feeling. Bliss.
Bliss is so much more than just happy. It's like this deep sense of peace and joy.
Yeah, it's like that feeling you get when you're meditating or when you're out in nature. Have you ever felt that when you're out hiking?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like that feeling of pure contentment.
Yeah. And not just a fleeting emotion. It's like a state of being.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think we've all experienced this next one. Sometimes you don't even have the right word for it, but this word is perfect. Dwindle.
Ah, yes. Like watching a campfire slowly die out, or the last drops of coffee in your mug.
Oh, I can picture it perfectly.
Time, resources, and motivation, they can all dwindle away.
Yeah, it's that gradual decrease. Like it slowly fades away. It makes you really think about how you use your time and resources.
It does.
Okay, so speaking of resources, what about a word for making the most of what you have? Being smart about it. Frugal.
Frugal sometimes gets bad rap like it means being cheap, but it's not about that at all. It's about being mindful,
Yeah, it's about intentionality.
Right.
Like making conscious decisions about your spending. So you're not wasting anything. It's almost like a whole philosophy.
It is. And it's not just about money. It's about everything. Time, energy, resources.
That's a good point. Okay, so let's move on to a word that's all about authenticity. Genuine.
Genuine is so important, especially these days.
I know, right? It's like everyone's trying to be someone they're not.
Exactly.
But genuine is all about being real, being true to yourself and to others too.
Yeah. And when you compliment someone's genuine nature, it means something.
It really does, because you're acknowledging that they're sincere, that they're not putting on an act.
Right. It's a compliment that goes a long way.
Okay, now let's talk about a word that can sometimes be a bit of a roadblock. Hinder.
Hinder, yeah. That's about the obstacles we face in life.
It could be anything, right? Procrastination, fear, even outside forces that are out of our control.
It's acknowledging those things that are holding us back.
Because once you acknowledge them, you can start to overcome them.
Exactly.
Now, have you ever worked on a project or maybe tried to learn a new skill and felt like it was just way too much?
All the time.
Complicated comes to mind. But what about the word intricate?
Ooh, intricate is good. It's like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's complex, but it's also beautifully structured, like a fancy watch or something.
Right, there's an order to it.
It's not just chaos, it's organized complexity.
I like that, organized complexity.
Okay, intricate. I'm going to use that one. Now, let's be real. We're all juggling a lot these days. Work, family, life, it's a lot.
It really is.
So the word juggle, it's pretty perfect, don't you think?
It is, because you're trying to keep all those balls in the air.
Exactly. You're trying not to let anything drop.
And it takes practice, right? And focus.
Yeah, and a good sense of balance.
Definitely.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, what about a word that describes something that's financially rewarding?
Lucrative.
Lucrative. It has a nice ring to it.
It does.
It makes you think of success, abundance.
Exactly. Like a career that's not just fulfilling, but also goes well.
Or even a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about a word that captures that sense of wonder and amazement. Marvel.
Marvel, like when you see something truly breathtaking.
Oh, I remember the first time I saw the Grand Canyon, it was just incredible. I was in awe. Like, how did this even happen?
Right, it's that feeling of wonder.
Yeah, an appreciation for something bigger than yourself.
It's a powerful feeling.
It is. Okay, so we live in a world where everything is connected, right? Technology is everywhere. So the word ubiquitous is pretty fitting, wouldn't you say?
It is. It's like smartphones, social media, they're everywhere you look.
Yeah, we're surrounded by it, and it makes you think about the impact it's having.
On everything.
On everything. Okay, let's wrap up this first round with a word that's all about embracing the unknown. Venture.
Venture, that's about taking risks, stepping outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. It could be starting a business, traveling to a new country, or just trying something new. It's about that willingness to explore.
And to see where it leads you.
Yeah, and to grow along the way.
Exactly. Even if it's a little bit scary.
It is. Okay, so we've covered some amazing words in this first round, but we've got more to come.
You know, when we were talking about venture, It can be kind of scary, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like you never know what's going to happen.
Right, and sometimes you just don't feel ready, like reluctance.
Exactly. Like you want to stay in your comfort zone. It feels safe there.
I get it. But I also think sometimes reluctance can be a good thing.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Like it gives you time to really appreciate what you already have, before you jump into something new.
That's a good point. It's like that feeling right before you go on vacation.
Yes, that's a perfect example. Okay, so let's talk about a word that has a really cozy, comforting vibe to it. Quaint.
Quaint is just so charming, isn't it?
It is. It makes me think of those little towns you see in movies.
With the cobblestone streets and the cute little shops.
Yes, or like a cozy bookstore with a fireplace.
Yeah, it has that old-fashioned feel, doesn't it?
It does, like a simpler time.
Less hustle and bustle.
Yeah, definitely less stressful. Okay, so now let's move on to a word that's all about subtlety. Subtle.
Subtle is about those things you don't notice right away, but you make a big difference.
Like a faint smell of perfume. Or like the way someone raises an eyebrow.
Exactly. It's those little things that add depth and meaning.
Yeah, it's not about being loud or flashy. It's about the details.
Right, and sometimes those details are the most powerful.
They really are. Okay, so now let's talk about being practical and getting things done. Pragmatic.
Pragmatic people, they're the problem solvers.
Yeah, they're not afraid to roll up their sleeves and figure things out.
And they focus on what works, none of that fancy stuff, just solutions.
Yeah, and they're efficient too. They get right to the point.
Okay, so now let's switch gears again. What about a word for an idea that's just starting to form? Like a seed.
Notion.
Notion. I like that. It's like a glimmer of inspiration.
Exactly. Like you're not quite sure where it's going yet. Right. But it has potential. It could grow into something amazing, or it might just fizzle out. But it's still worth paying attention to.
Oh, absolutely. You never know where those little notions might lead.
Okay, so now let's talk about the opposite of being insightful. Oblivious.
Oh, yeah. We all know someone who's oblivious.
They're just completely unaware of what's going on around them.
It's like they're in their own little world.
They can be kind of funny sometimes, but also a little frustrating.
Definitely. Like, how do you not see what's right in front of you?
Right. You got to pay attention to the cues.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're going to miss out.
Okay, remember we talked about keen earlier? It's like the opposite of oblivious.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Keen is all about being alert and engaged, eager to learn.
While oblivious is like totally clueless.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Okay, so what about a word for being really passionate about something? Like super enthusiastic.
Zealous.
Zealous, that's the one. Like you're so into it, you can't contain yourself. It's contagious.
Yeah, and it inspires other people.
It does. Okay, now let's celebrate what makes each of us unique. Quirks.
Quirks are those little things that make you, you.
They're like your signature moves.
Exactly, like that friend who always wears mismatched socks.
Or the coworker who collects those weird little figurines.
Yeah, it's those things that make you interesting.
I love that. Quirks are awesome. Okay, so what about a word that describes who we are at our core?
Identity.
Identity, that's a big one.
It is. It's about your values, your beliefs, your experiences.
Everything that makes you, you. And it's always changing too, right?
Exactly. We're always growing and evolving.
Okay, before we move on, I want to talk about thrive again for a second.
Oh, thrive's a great word.
It is. It's like you're not just surviving, you're flourishing.
You're living your best life.
Yeah, you're reaching your full potential. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of great words, but we've got one more set to go. Okay, we're back, ready for the final round. What words are we looking at this time?
Well, let's start with yearn. It's a powerful word, you know?
It is. It makes me think of like really deep longing for something you can't have.
Yeah, like a lost love or a dream that feels impossible.
Right. It's that ache in your heart. But there's also beauty in it, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It shows how deeply we can feel.
Yeah, and it can be a motivator too. Like that yearning pushes you to try harder.
It does. It can push you to venture out and try new things.
Oh, I see the connection. Like yearn is the fuel and venture is the action.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about a word that's really important for success. Tenacity.
Oh, tenacity is huge. It's all about never giving up.
Yeah, it's like you're determined to reach your goal no matter what. You don't let anything stop you.
Right. You just keep pushing through.
It makes me think about our listeners, How do they handle challenges? Are they tenacious?
That's a great question. It's something to think about.
It is. Okay, so tenacity is about never giving up. But what about persistent?
Persistent is a little different. It's more about consistency.
Okay, so like you're steadily working towards something, even if it takes a long time.
Yeah, it's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. You just keep at it and eventually you break through. Okay, so now let's talk about a word that describes something truly significant. Monumental.
Monumental, like a historical event that changes everything.
Yeah, or like a scientific discovery, or even a personal achievement that transforms your life.
Exactly. It's a turning point.
It makes you think about what really matters, what leaves a mark on the world.
It does. And sometimes those monumental events are met with a lot of excitement. Remember zeal?
Yeah, like monumental describes the event and zeal describes the feeling.
Right. Okay, and speaking of feelings, let's revisit thrive. It's such an important word, especially when we're talking about personal growth.
It is. It's like you're not just existing, you're thriving.
You're living a full, meaningful life.
Yeah, you're constantly growing and evolving. Okay, so for our final word, we're going to talk about what makes you, identity.
Identity is a complex thing, isn't it? It's all the pieces that make you who you are.
Yeah, your beliefs, your experiences, your values, everything. And it's not fixed either, right?
No, it's always changing. We're always learning and growing.
I love that. It's like we're all works in progress. Well, I think we've covered some incredible words today. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too, and I hope our listeners have as well.
I hope they've been inspired to use these words in their own lives and to keep exploring language. There's always more to discover.
That's right. Words are powerful tools. Use them wisely.
So true. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this word journey.